off of my leg to give myself a little room to turn underneath me. Now, it's very difficult if you have a training partner that's your weight or heavier to pull this knee all the way back. That's very difficult, but you can get it to come back a little, right? Especially because you have his head. When you have a training partner, somebody's head, their hips go up, their head comes down. You will be able to pull this knee back even a little bit. Will give you an opportunity to hip in and have a much easier time rolling them over than if you just try to basically roll, okay? It'll be like a square wheel versus a round wheel. The round wheel is obviously gonna roll much easier. So again, we have this triangle locked up. My right hand is on this side of the body and we're able to go. This is typically not a bad idea when this left arm begins to present itself in front of you. This opens up the way for you to get on your side, use a right arm over the back, bring your body up to your posted left elbow, and then make sure your foot is planted on the mat. And then we're gonna put our right hand over the top to give our hips some motion, some momentum, and then we press off the right foot. And then again, we retract this knee as we begin to sweep. We don't keep driving it forward. So pay attention to this knee. It retracts, okay? And that's what puts him over the top into our triangle from the top position, okay? And then we're gonna go over what we should look at when we land in that top triangle. So we got a triangle here. I'm gonna hit my sweep. Let's rotate a little bit this way, buddy. Yep. I'm gonna hit my sweep on Nick. So I use my hand, pull my body up, I post on my elbow, I use my foot drive, I turn my body. So I'm turning my right hand towards the floor, which will get my hip wound up like a rubber band to give some spin. We retract our knee, and then I put Nick over. Now, when we end up in this triangle, okay, this triangle, I don't want both arms on this side. I want to swim inside the arm and begin to use this triangle to manipulate this arm, okay? This triangle, when we are out in front or perpendicular to somebody, is a very difficult triangle to finish from this position, okay? But it is not difficult to attack this arm or to isolate this arm, and when he defends this arm by bringing it up, to then switch to our side triangle, okay? Not a difficult task whatsoever. It's a very, very strong triangle in a perpendicular fashion, exceptionally strong triangle to begin finishing a Kimura, American lock on the far arm, or to sit through and switch it to that Yoko Senkaku using that far arm, excuse me, the Kimura on the near arm, pulling that far arm in and switching to our Yoko Senkaku. And let's really take a look at that, because when we sweep, we don't want to just let everything go. Yeah, I want to set you guys up for success to not only get our escape and then get on the offense, but then use that offensive maneuver to sweep him, put him on the bottom, and then use our triangle there to switch it either to a different triangle, a little bit more finishable triangle when we're perpendicular, or use it to finish on the arm. To finish on this triangle from the top, I would need to go and hug his hip. Like I said, from the bottom, we need to change the orientation of our body to face more in line with him. And sometimes during that transition, we may lose control, although it's a very tight triangle. So again, we get this scenario. Let's back up this way. I'm able to get our reverse triangle. The arm is on this side of the body. Now, it doesn't have to be, but it's just when the arm is over here, it really opens our way up to post up with basically no interruption at all. I turn my body, I push off the floor, we retract our knee, and then we have our sweep. Immediately, my left arm swims through, okay? That's a very good idea in this scenario because, again, I would rather have this arm, if we're gonna use this for Kimuras, I'd rather have this arm isolated on the right side of my body. If the arm is still here, I will need to go down and hug the hips and then look to try to finish a reverse triangle. But if it's not on tight already, if it's a little loose already, we would have to abandon ship, okay? If it's not really tight. So for instance, I feel like it's not quite on, my hamstring is not in the best place anymore. So then we're going to isolate this arm. This will give us our Kimuras, okay? If I have this pin with this triangle, and I'm able to bring Nick's arm to this right side of my body, you can see that a Kimura is a very easy option. We grab the wrist, we use our forehead for balance, I rotate his wrist, we pack the wrist, and then I can start to hit the Kimura. What typically happens is Nick goes and grabs his arm with his, this is very common when you look for a Kimura, and that's the setup that we need to hold the wrist, open our legs, drive our bottom leg through, elongating the left leg, extending the right leg, back heeling with the heel with my calf, and then locking up a horribly tight Yoko Senkaku. Remember, on the Yoko Senkaku, there are many little pitfalls. This happens to be one of my favorite triangles. I believe it's one of the strongest triangles. It's one of the most awkward to get out. Most of the time, guys end up escaping because of mistakes that I've made, not because of the power of his escapes on this scenario. So we have to keep in mind of all the little minute details to finish up this Yoko Senkaku, and we'll go into that right now. So again, we get our sweep, we get this triangle, and now we will carry into the details of the Yoko Senkaku. When we have a Yoko Senkaku, so he's laid on his back, I have this top side reverse triangle, okay? And I am able to isolate the bottom arm. The first thing that we'll take a look at is how we use and extend our left leg. But the pitfalls, usually what ends up happening is we usually get too carried away with my right arm, and I end up pulling Nick's arm too much. When we use a Yoko Senkaku, rotate around this way, ladies. When we do a Yoko Senkaku, I like to counterattack Kimura so that Nick presents this arm. When we do a Yoko Senkaku, okay, can we rotate this way a little bit? Again, the general pitfall is that we end up pulling our training partner. We don't want to pull him. I want him flat on his back. Okay, I want to have him on his side. So what I would prefer to say that we do with this arm is we monitor it, because if he is taking his elbow away from me, well, then I pull. Okay, but if he's not, I hold. I want his arm in this position so that his back is perfectly flat. So the only time I actually pull is if he is trying to bring his elbow away. Other than that, we hold. We maintain this arm position. Okay. The other thing is I never post on my elbow until to get this to finish. I prefer to have my left arm in a Kimura type position. We were just in Kimura, he defended. I hold his wrist, I hold his sleeve, or I hold his elbow. And then we extend our left leg to sit ourselves through. So again, if I am locked in this triangle, I hold, we open, I extend my left leg, and I slide my left leg under so that my inside of my quad is under the top of his head like a pillow. It's not under his back. Okay, it's under his head like a pillow. Meanwhile, we're just holding this arm. If you have a gi and you have this lock, you might as well grab a straitjacket, because a straitjacket grip lets me control this near arm with one arm. And it gives me a complete control of this near arm. If you don't have a gi, we just keep our palm focused